Alrighty. I am recording the session, just everybody knows. So you'll need to accept the fact that it's being recorded. Otherwise, it will boot you out of the meeting. I've learned that the hard way multiple times. So welcome to our January water cooler session hosted by PRADO. I have gotten a few questions actually from folks about what is a water cooler. So essentially, the way we treat these, like, fair question, honestly. And like in terms of meeting style, we treat these as like an informal sort of conversation, brainstorming session together. We don't, sometimes we have formal presentations, sometimes we don't. This time we don't. It's mostly just meant for a time for us to connect and share ideas and sort of get to know each other. Um, I'm thinking if folks want to share in the chat what station and or city you're joining from, that would be great, just so we have an idea of where folks are from. And I can start out and introduce myself and the other board members who are here, not to put you on the spot, but maybe you can introduce yourselves too. My name's Katie Miller. I'm the Director of Membership at Vermont Public. I've been here about 3 years next week, I think. Um, and I am also the very new secretary on the board of PRADO, and I've been on the board for about a year. Regina, you want to
Oh,
introduce
yeah,
yourself?
sure. Sorry, I was busy typing my thing. I didn't
You're
hear what you
good.
said. So I'm Regina Yeager. I'm the development director at WNC in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And I'm on the product board and I deal with scholarships and the water cooler sessions. And I have to say, I laughed because I was like, there might be some people who don't really even know what a water cooler is. Maybe it's showing our age calling it a water cooler session. Uh,
An actual water cooler is like a different thing, but
yeah, exactly.
it's meant to be like a water cooler chat where like you run into a colleague and you just have a quick like informal chat. Like, I can't see everybody on my screen. Is there anyone else from the board that's here that wants to say hi?
Sarah.
Sarah.
Hi, I'm Sarah McDaniel, PRADO board. Uh,
Okay,
long,
great.
Long-time membership person, lover of public media.
Awesome. Okay, so I thought to kick us off, I can just, I have like a couple of prompts for us. But this session is on retention and especially thinking about those that might be new after the loss of federal funding and retention for those donors. So thinking about that, I'm curious if anyone just wants to give her an overview of what your station is already doing for retention and how you feel like that's going.
I can go. Okay.
Go ahead.
We
Yeah.
recently update because I like most of y'all probably we had a large influx of new members, which is very exciting. And we updated or enhanced our new member welcome situation. So, previously they would get like a letter, a thank you letter, and a sticker. And so now, let me see if I have an example of the envelope, but now they're getting like a 8.5 by 5.5 or 9 by 6 envelope is what we send it in now. So it's a little bit fancier looking. And when I sign the thank you letters, I have a stack of those by me. So when I come across a new member letter, I just hand write the address. However, if it's been like an on-air day where there's a lot, then I do labels because that's just too much handwriting. So they get the letter, the thank you letter is folded in half. Whatever buck slip we're doing at the moment, they get that. And then I have a new member guide. So it's like a two-sided 8.5 by 11 sheet on kind of thicker stock. And on one side is our schedule, much to my program director's dismay. Um, because he doesn't want to be beholden to the schedule in case it changes. But so one side is the schedule, and on the other side is just all of the things that their support provides to the community, right? So, like our newsletter or our daily newsletter, that's the news email. We have like a trivia program segment, just all these different things that they probably don't know about. And then they get a new member sticker as well. And so I kind of like the and like a special little thank you sticker on the back of the envelope. Those are still first class, like postage, so that's nice. Um, and I think it just has like a little bit more heft. So that's one thing we recently changed. We have had some people like give again pretty soon after becoming a new member. So one thing we did, people who gave in the fall, who became new members in either June or July or in the fall, right? We went ahead and sent them a year-end appeal, which we have not really done that in the past. So that's new for us, maybe not for other people, but we had a pretty good response from new members. And then I have plans, but since I'm not actually doing them yet, I don't feel like I should act like I am. So I'm eager to hear what other people are doing.
Go ahead, Lizette.
We're actually doing very much a similar thing to you. It doesn't go in a larger envelope, but it is, we include our program guide, our printed program guide. It always has a QR code so they can give again later. We have a frequency card, we give them a sticker, we give them a magnet, but the core difference is obviously we do encourage them to reach out to us. We do encourage them to give us their feedback and stuff like that, so that, we make a much more concerted effort to make sure they're more connected with us. That's the key thing.
I don't want to call her out, but my brilliant colleague Sarah is here. And Sarah, I'm wondering will you tell them about we do similar stuff at Vermont Public, like acknowledgments and thank yous and stuff, but will you tell folks about the Hug Bus and the transmitter in particular, because both are kind of your baby?
Yeah. Okay. So I know a lot of other stations do this, but we make sure we reach out and thank all of our brand new members after they make their first gift. Typically, we started it after our pledge drives wrapped up, but we are currently trying to get everybody on board and welcome new members monthly. It's such a nice touch point and outreach that I think a lot of donors really appreciate. I know it might feel like a lot of work, but the response we get is always so heartwarming and kind. And I started a monthly member newsletter that goes out via email around the first-ish week of the month, inspired by KUTs. I really love theirs, and I wanted to kind of replicate that for our audience and being able to offer maybe special member discounts or giveaways and opportunities. And I think that's a really nice touch point that they enjoy, and I enjoy making it. So it's fun.
Sarah, there's a question in the chat about the format of the Hug Bus welcome, like phone call, card, like what is it?
So it's typically phone calls, which is scary for a lot of people. But I do also offer a kind of email template folks can zhuzh up to make more, their own style. But we usually will get donor phone call or phone numbers, and we prioritize calling first. But if we don't have them, we will shoot them an email. Yeah.
So if people are curious about the phone calls, basically how it works is it used to be after every single drive, we would put together a list of all the new members and it goes into a big Excel spreadsheet or Google sheet. And we assign people, staff used to volunteer, and now we have like a core group of people that do what we call the Hug Bus, and they get assigned a certain number of phone calls per person. And on the spreadsheet, it has their name, their phone number, and whether they're a new one-time donor or a new sustainer and the town they're in, because sometimes people like to be assigned, like we have one reporter that works in a very specific region of the state, and she loves to be assigned people that live in her area because she's also an active member of her community. And there's also a column for whether you spoke to the member, whether the phone number was disconnected, because that's just good for us to know in membership, that their phone number doesn't work. And then any comments. And then one of us will go through the sheet at the end to make sure like it doesn't say something like person meant to donate one time. They don't want to be a sustainer, anything like that, and clean it up. And the phone calls all come from staff. In the past, there's a conversation within this group. I will tell you all, there's a conversation every so often about like, we should really have volunteers do this. And I'm really adamant that it's way more meaningful if it comes from staff, or a board member or someone like that, someone that's really deeply connected to the organization. And most folks, when you actually get them on the phone, most of the time we leave voicemails, but most folks, when you actually get them on the phone, are so delighted that someone on the staff, and usually it's hosts and reporters that do these calls, they volunteer to, that they're just so delighted that they got a thank you call that it's really meaningful. And it does take some time and some people power, but it's been worth it for sure.
Can I ask you a quick question about
Yeah.
So this is a question for these new member calls and calls in general for membership. A lot of voicemails these days, the message is just like user of this phone number, and it says the number cannot be reached. And I always really hesitate to leave any details in that voicemail because I'm worried that we have the wrong number or something. And I'm curious if y'all have that same anxiety about that, or do you go ahead and just operate on the fact that maybe the number's probably right? I don't have an opinion on what you should do. I want to know, it would be so much better if I could just leave information in the voicemail.
We typically leave a voicemail unless it sounds really sketchy or like it's clearly wrong. Like we're calling Sarah, but the message says Robert or something, But we also aren't leaving any identifying information other than, hey, Sarah, my name's Katie. I work at Vermont Public. I just wanted to thank you for becoming a new member. Here's a number where you can reach us if you have any questions. Like it's pretty vague. Like there's no identifying information or even donation amount in there. And I'm seeing a couple other questions here. A deadline. Yeah, you have to give people a hard deadline. Otherwise, they'll never do it. It's the thing that gets kicked down people's to-do lists. And we have to do, I wouldn't say a significant amount, but usually there's a little bit of nagging involved and or like me taking on like the last few calls just to get them done. And then there was a question about donation levels. It's for everybody. The major giving team does their own calls to people. Yeah. And we just call it, I don't know why it's called the hug bus. Someone invented that term long before my time here and it stuck. And it makes for really cute Slack messages about how the hug bus is now taking on new routes and all of that stuff. What else? What other, maybe sort of like outside of your standard thank you letter, that sort of thing, are people doing to focus on donor attention? Or what are things you wish you could do? That could be.
We actually do phone calls with volunteers. I just wanted to put a plug in there. It makes the volunteers feel so good too. They love it. They just go away feeling so great, especially right now with everything that happened with CPB. So we get groups in after the fund drive and call everybody. We also started a new donor series of emails. It's like 6 or 7 emails that go out after you become a new member after the drive. And we do it for the sustainer group, the one-time donor groups, and then leadership circle, like major donor groups too. The staff, me and 2 other people call. We've had, I'm sure all of you have too, like an overwhelming number of people that have increased to $100 a month, which puts them in leadership circle, and just, huge gifts come in. And so we've been calling every single one of those people. And after the July drive, I started a leadership circle newsletter that comes from the manager. And then I had said somebody on the major gifts team, we've got somebody who is, she's doing a lot better. I think she's going to do the first one next month, but the first week of the month, they get something from him and then something from, it's been me every time. just because of the staffing situation. But and that's just really personal, just very much like this is what we're going through. I talked about when CPB went away that there were tears in the studio, so very much like a personal touch with that. And then I think my favorite thing we're doing right now, and this is for major donors, and we just invite all of them and see who will show up. And we've had to limit, say, the first 14 that show up is our local show does a news roundup that complements 1A's at noon every Friday. And so we bring in donors every Friday to watch the show. And then either one or two of the hosts will sit down and have lunch with us in the room. And we just talk to them about everything that's going on with the station. So that's been really nice and a lot of fun. So.
Similar to the Hug Bus, we started getting the executive council members more involved. They are actually doing thank you calls or note cards, and certainly focusing more on the major donors. But there's no reason they couldn't do donors at any level. So that's working out very well. One of the things I forgot to mention is we do include invitation for everyone, a postcard in their letters to join our texting club as well, to make sure that's another engagement opportunity for them. Your question about what we would love to do, I would love to have more new donor type events, like inviting them to a trivia night or inviting them to something that engages them in person. So
We've been talking a lot about events here too, and we have a long-term dream of being able to do, maybe not monthly, but like quarterly station tours or like breakfast with a host, sort of thing. But it's like I don't know, it's like anything, the capacity, the staff time, all of that to pull it off. And I don't know how many of you this applies to, but where we are, we serve the entire state in the Montreal area and, a little bit of other areas as well. And so our station is located in Burlington, which is the northern part of the state. But then it's like, like what happens to the people that are all the way down, on the southern border and making sure they have the same opportunities. So yeah,
Oh,
I guess we just need a station in every corner of the state and then we'll be set. Go ahead, Nancy.
I know I was going to ask about whose format. Like Brooke, I wasn't sure if you were a joint licensee or radio or television. For us, we're doing a lot of these things. We've turned Giving Tuesday, which into Grata Tuesday. So we recruit from across the entire organization. And last year we reached out to 700 members. This year it was over 1,000 members. And I know that recruiting staff for it, I think it's good for them too. Because I don't know about you guys, but they forget, we talk about trying to bring in these people that our members want to meet. And it's like, they want to meet you. Like you are a part of their life. You are important. And sometimes it's kind of fun to see them find that out. So we've been doing calls and we created a chat group in our Teams messaging. So as donations come in, we see if they're assigned to a mid-level donor. If they're not, they're assigned right away. And we're getting the thank yous out because we're getting a lot of DAF and IRA giving. As far as like new members go, we still pretty much have the same series. I feel like with us, we have so many different affinities, and those monies can come in through classical music, through PBS, through our NPR station. So where we were segmenting communications with our members basically on their affinity and the type of donation, whether it was one-time or sustaining, I kind of feel like these new donors, especially if it's crisis giving, like how do you change that messaging? I feel like they need more proof of performance, because my first thought is that thank you letter has the QR code to say, oh my gosh, you're supporting this stuff, but wait, there's more. Like keep exploring, keep connecting. And I'm wondering if you guys have that feeling, like, do we have to divide that audience in a different way that says it's making a difference? Here it is. I just feel like those communications need more proof of performance than the usual. Let's just keep upping the engagement so that we're more important and are always that top 3 nonprofits that are at the forefront of your mind.
I Nancy, I totally agree with you, and this has been on my mind. Yesterday, I attended like a marketing platform had a free webinar, that so they could get me to buy their product. But it was actually really good. They were talking, I have my notes right here actually. It was how to reach supporters in 2026. And they were talking specifically about millennials and Gen Z. I went to speak at a university class last week, and I asked the people in the class to raise their hand if they if they ever had heard of our radio station. That was humbling. Um, and then I asked them to raise their hand if they listened to NPR, and it was just very small amount. So, I did listen to NPR in college, right? And so it's like, oh, we have to think ahead and try to figure out how to reach these people who are not listening to the radio. So anyway, what they said is this youngerish group cares less about institutions and like legacy of NPR and its impact, and more, or even public media, and more about the social proof, communities. They're motivated by tangible impact. So exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
And, so one other engagement and cultivation thing I started last year for new sustainers. So on the first anniversary of them becoming a sustainer, or 5-year anniversary, I was writing handwritten note cards, and I mentioned 3 things that were new in the past year. So, and that was easy to do because we had like launched our community calendar. We'd launched our news, like our news email, and then a new public affairs program, right? I was like, oh, boom, 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 all because of you. Um, but then that got a little bit overwhelming, and it has fallen to the wayside. So, and I also don't know how effective it was, but I am trying to think about how can we tell the story of the impact of their gift when the impact of their gift is keeping people it I'm struggling a little bit with that. And so I'm trying to find new stories that we can track, a social change to,
Yeah.
or like a community event that we host. And then of course feedback like member testimonials or listener testimonials.
Yeah. And wrap it up. I don't want to monopolize here, but Katie, I suffer the same wrath. Like, okay, we've got 22 counties. What do you do about that? So what I threw into the mix, which got a lukewarm reception, but I will find research. It will be a stronger case. Is, I have 8 million pictures of libraries in my phone because over the course of the past 5 years, they've had to adapt so much to the services they offer. And I find it amazing. And I also find them fully aligned. And I also think about, where do the people who are madly in love with public media come from? It's from watching it as kids and then coming up. Every time you see anything from CBB, it's like, oh, but what about Big Bird? But this person was so important in my life. And, that's where that connective tissue is. So I just feel like one of the things, and we already work with the libraries in the sense that we have so many people that have difficulty getting onto Passport that we developed relationships with. In Ohio, they call them navigators. So there's navigators at libraries, so they have all the information. So if we have a member that's having a difficult time, now we've turned this 15-minute phone call into, you know what, you could go to your library, talk to the navigator, bring your item with you to help get onto Passport. But for me, I would love to have a campaign where our children's programming is right there with a QR code that connects you to it in the reading room of the library, because I feel like, okay, there's little kids, we go back to our roots, we've got a lot of great children's programming, and start making those connections now. So it's not foreign turf that we have to try to sell them on when they're like in teen years and they have no connection to it, as opposed to remember this when you were little and getting that connection and then saying, but wait, there's more that's appropriate for this age too. And it gives us, one of the other reasons I really want that partnership, Katie, is because then when it comes to events, they have auditoriums, they have spaces. They're a known commodity that's not intimidating to walk into. If you say it's going to be at this ballroom, oh, wait, what do I wear? Or what's appropriate? Or everybody knows what life's like when you walk into a library. So I think I think that finding those kind of partnerships can help create those connective points in person.
Yeah, wow. My mind is blown at the navigators I know we're not here to talk about Passport, but like,
Right?
The often need for, and this is a little true with NPR Plus too, I've found with older donors, is like helping them navigate the tech is so hard. And often it's like, if I just had somebody who could do a house call, like the number of times we've been like, can we just send somebody over there? And we used to have someone on staff who would do house calls at some of the like senior living communities and be like,
Oh,
gonna be
cool.
there and go visit 4 donors today. Like get them hooked up with Passport. That's really brilliant. I also think, yeah, I think looking to other I don't know, organizations or institutions that um, continue to grow and serve the community in new ways is important. I think part of what you're bringing up that for me is really it's a theme we've been dealing with here too, and I think everyone is about public media growing and adapting and changing and sticking with the times and serving all audiences, including the younger audiences that are coming up. And I've been talking a lot in different groups here at Vermont Public about how like we can't ask people for money if we're not serving them yet. I mean, we can ask, but it's not going to do any good. And honestly, it might damage the relationship. So how do we serve them better and then ask them to support? But yeah, so I'm curious, is anyone like already segmenting out the new crisis donors, like the federal
That's happening
funding?
in the next 14 days.
Oh boy. And if so, what are you planning to do with them? I'm so curious. Julie, go ahead.
So we're part of CDP's Member Services Bureau. So some of this is being done by them. And they are segmenting out people who became new members or rejoined, that were lapsed and rejoined during the period, since May 1st when the executive order first went out. And so they're just adding messaging to say, thank you for coming through for us when we needed you most, and reminding them that we still need them and that we would rely more and more on community support. And then we just launched we're launching a new member benefits package and some new giving levels and things like that. And we are segmenting out the new people that joined during the crisis with similar sorts of messaging. And really, even though we're not emphasizing the benefits, we are talking about how we surveyed members and we listened to what they wanted. And, we're trying to serve you better as a thanks for you coming through for us. And, but we're focusing on our service to the community and the importance of their giving rather than the benefits.
Jackie, go ahead.
Yeah, so we're already planning for especially the folks who gave in the summertime. We already have a major donor lined up who's promised to donate matching money, so we can specifically reach out to that group of people, which for us is like almost 500 of like, hey, renew now, and you can get your renewal matched for another year type thing. So we'll start doing that in the summertime, actually probably in June towards the end of our budget year. So I'm hopeful that as an additional incentive will help a lot. And then also, we have a lot of events coming up because we're going to be moving to a new studio soon. So we'll be having a lot of events, including like members only pre-sale. So that'll be another nice incentive for folks, especially folks who joined in like the past 6 months to like get tickets to these events before they go on sale to the public.
That's awesome. Congrats on a new studio too. That's exciting. There's a question from Brooke in the chat, and I have thoughts on this, but I want to give other people the opportunity to speak as well. Which is curious about how you segment out those crisis donors. Are you just assuming they're new and that the new and rejoined folks are crisis supporters, or do you have some way you do that? Does anybody have thoughts on that?
I know one of the things I do just because I'm the person who is in charge of all of our fundraising. So I know the dates of the on-air drives we did in the summertime, so I can do some that's date-based. And then also looking through the comments and then tagging them as well with like a prospect code or something is also has also helped.
I can say to Vermont Public, we use Roy Revolution Online as our database, and so that's one part of it is we use source codes and such through Roy to identify and tag people based on how they came in. But we did specific crisis fundraising right after the rescission, and then we did like a campaign for a little while, and then we had specific messaging that went out. Everything was tied to specific forms and source codes, so that if it was an appeal related to federal funding specifically, people got the federal funding source code, and so we knew that they were sort of part of that group. And I'm fortunate we have a CRM and integrations team of 2 people that are essentially part of the membership team that are brilliant and amazing at what they do, and they sort of made all that work. It did, it gets a little squishy because we did have a fall drive in there where we talked a lot about federal funding, but we didn't necessarily, count them all as new crisis donors. But that's the short version of how we did it. Jackie, did you raise your hand again?
Yes, because I remember
Okay,
the
great.
other thing I was going to say that I will be doing this year is I got permission to sign our station up for that finding and understanding new donor survey that Greater Public is doing with City Square. So I'm hoping we'll get some useful information about the people who joined us specifically that we can use when it's time to ask them to renew in the summertime.
Yeah, we also during that time we um, really focused on and hammered on sustainers. So the bulk of our new members during that time were new sustainers, which helps a lot with retention, obviously. Um, and um, the other thing we did, in terms of comments was, if a major gift came in or something like that was not necessarily solicited, that was sort of random and had any sort of note on it or was around that time and was an additional gift from a major donor, those got tagged as well. We also had so many, and I know this is true of a lot of stations, but I mean, the number of members that have moved into what we call the producer circle, which is the same as Regina's leadership circle, that $1,200 level is like astronomical. And so the other piece we're dealing with is how do we manage those donors, right? And like try to keep them at that level or figure out if their intention, like it's a one-time thing or whatever. That is a whole different level of retention. It's like retaining the new people, but also retaining the new revenue. So what else? Oh, go ahead, Lizette. Sorry.
Taking a close look at all the increases, the sustainer increases specifically, because I can definitely factor those into crisis response based on when those campaigns happened.
Totally. What else? Is there anything else on people's dream list, either for crisis donors in particular or any donors that you wish you could add to, like if money, time, capacity, technology were unlimited, what would you do for donor retention?
I mean, if I had all the time in the day, like if I were able to call like every sustainer personally on the credit card reject list, I would do that. As it is, I can only do like the higher dollar donors, and on like every time without fail, I will get one increase, even when I'm just calling to say, hey, we need to update your credit card. So in a fantasy world, I'd be able to call like all 100 every month.
So this the
Big
sustainer
same.
yeah. The sustainer increases so I get all the calls to update their card, right? And so what I do is I confirm, will you please confirm your mailing address? And then I say, oh, and it looks like you're giving $10 a month. Does that sound correct to you? And they're like, oh, yeah, why don't you go ahead and make that 15? Like, and that is weird how it works. But for the sustainer declines, what I've started to do is we used to email them kind of like BCC them because we don't have a great like our CRM, we use Memsys. And then it doesn't really talk to any marketing platforms or anything. So I have to translate for that. But so we BCC'd them. And it was just like, please update your card. Here's a link. So what I do now is I segment them out by amount. So then I can at least put in the email, like your $5 donation was declined, because when they go to update their card info on the form, because we also don't have a member portal, they don't know how much they've been giving, right? And so there are a lot of increases when that happens, because a lot of people are like, oh, I'm only giving, this much. I thought I was doing this. So segmenting them out by amount really helps. But I used to do individual emails to everyone. And then it was just not, and I would copy and paste, the format, but like it was so time consuming that I stopped doing it for a couple months. And I was like, oh my God, I need these cards updated. So now I do this, and it's kind of personalized and also not. Like, it's personalized but more feasible. So.
Brooke, I don't know, like what platform do you use for your email? Not for like marketing, but like when you're just using your email.
Oh, I do not have Outlook. Otherwise, I would do the thing where you can merge and
Yeah, I was
send.
gonna say, depending on what it is, you can do a mail merge. That's what I started doing because we could catch people who opted out of marketing emails but would want to
Yeah.
get these. So that's how we do it.
Yes. So I do the mail merge, and then I copy from the Word doc and put it in email. That's as good as it gets because we use Gmail. So for tax receipts, that's where it's the biggest problem.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I see Sarah's hand up. I do want to add, Brooke, maybe you and I can connect later, because before I worked at Vermont Public, I worked at like a teeny tiny nonprofit with no budget, no people, no, like nothing. And I found a way to do a merge in Gmail. It took a little finagling and a lot of patience and a lot of asking Google how to do it. If I can find it, I'll make sure to send it to you, and I'll share it on the Slack channel as well. Sarah, go ahead.
I forgot I wanted to mention this, but the sustaining renewal folks, we actually tried something during our last drive where I had been working with our major giving folks to do some more digital focused matches. And I actually added this into our lapsed sustainer email to incentivize them to update their gift. So I think this one, I'm trying to remember, I'm having it feels like it was so long ago. I think that was the triple your gift day. So that was added there. So it tripled their full year of recurring gifts. And then I had a little bit left over. So I used that in a renew your sustaining membership, and you'll unlock $100 for Vermont Public. And that went over really well too. So something to put in your back pocket.
I thought I saw somebody else's hand up, but I can't remember who it was. Any burning things to add?
I had mine up to just
Okay, go.
because I used to have to do the same thing with Memsys.
The other thing I was going to mention about retention and one-time donors, and I know this is a controversial topic, but we are this calendar year, hopefully by the end of this fiscal year, going to start experimenting with, I don't want to call them annual sustainers, but annual recurring donations, and automatic annual renewals. We won't know the results of that until a year from whenever we launch, but That's something we're going to try because we have so many donors who say, you know, oh my gosh, I always give it this time and I just totally forgot or whatever. And I think the plan is that we are going to first launch it on our PBS Passport NPR Plus bundle form, so that people who donate their, you know, $96 to get both be like, do you just want us to automatically renew this next year? And then we'll send a series of reminder emails so that they know, like, hey, in 2 months, we're going to withdraw this amount. In 1 month, we're going to take it. In 2 weeks, it's going to happen, you know, to avoid people being like, why did you take my money? But yeah, we're excited to give it a try and see how that goes. Julie, go for it.
It was just this wasn't what I was going to say, but I was just putting in the chat that Katie, I would love to see your Passport NPR Plus bundle form because that's what we're just launching that.
We just
Um,
redid it. So it'll be good for some people to kick the tires for us, so to speak. We just redid it because the recommended minimum for Passport was increased. And our bundle has always been available for $8 a month, but we just figured it was a good time to sort of redo everything and market it as one thing as opposed to marketing Passport separately and NPR Plus separately. So I'll
Right.
share that in the chat.
Yeah, we're going to, for our internal members, other than people who are already sustainers at the end of December, we're going to be asking for $10 a month for the bundle. And then at the beginning of next year, people will have to give that much to keep Passport. So that's part of our new benefits. But what I wanted to say was one thing that we've started doing that I'm excited about, we've been doing it for a few months, is I wanted something to do to thank donors that wasn't based on how much they could give. And so what I decided on was how long they've been giving, but it's ended up being we're thanking everybody on the anniversary of them becoming a member. At first it was only people who, like, it was only going to be certain segments of how long, but then I found out we could just do everybody whose anniversary date is in January will get this. And so we're using GradaVid program to send a really wonderful video showing everything that your membership is supporting to everybody on their anniversary month. And we're just getting wonderful, you know, replies back from people thanking us.
I have a couple. I just raised my hand. I don't remember where the hand raise is. I have a lot of questions. That sounds amazing, Julie. So GradaVid, I guess you just make one video for a certain time segment and then update it for the next time segment, because hopefully people aren't getting two in 1 year.
I'm only personalizing the email itself that says the month, like
And then
merging in the fiat month.
it kind of leads me to a question. We have historically done fall and spring renewals, and that gets tricky, like for people who become a member in January, right? Or June, you know, when we have our off fall, spring fundraisers. How many of y'all have switched to renewing on the month that they first gave? Because I would like to, but it feels a little bit daunting. Who's made that switch? I'm curious.
I mean, we've always done it that way.
Yeah.
Um, and it does, you know, it does make it easier on a monthly basis because you're spreading out that workload across 12 months rather than doing it like it's a pain every 3 months or 6 months or whatever it is. Yeah, I wish I had advice.
We have we do monthly renewals and the series is long. We have shortened it and removed parts of the series because when I got here it was it was also freshly post-merger for Vermont Public. VPR and Vermont PBS merged and became one. And so we had two separate systems, two membership lists, and we merged everything. And we were dealing with two full series of 9 letters each for each one that was getting updated. It was like too much. So we combined it all and have seen good results. And we've pulled out months that just don't perform well. But the whole series takes 9 months and it starts 3 months before their renewal date. And it's that first one is like a, hey, thanks so much. Here's everything. Your gift is done. Your renewal is up soon. If you want, you could do it early. The next month is a sort of similar ask. Only instead of asking them to renew early, it's you could become a sustainer and then you don't have to worry about your renewal date anymore. And then there's the renewal month, and then it's like it goes on for months after that to try to get them back once they're technically lapsed. And we have email versions of that as well, but it's not all of them. It's just a couple months in that series, because if we go much out further, or we go too much further than that, we found it's just not useful. And then we're in drive time anyway, so it's kind of like, but for the most part, it's a lot, but it's also so systematized at this point that we have an external mail house that does all of it. And the part that takes the longest is the segmenting, honestly. I'm just catching up on the chat. Sorry. Anything else? We have about 10 minutes left. I'm curious if anybody else has burning retention questions for this group. Any other station? Have I found any other station that currently has yearly sustainers? Yes, but I can't remember what they are. I know I've talked to a few different
Chicago
stations
Chicago tried it for a while. I don't know if they're still doing it.
Yeah.
We've been doing it for years at North Country Public Radio. It works out wonderfully. The issue you'll run into is the same we run into with monthly donors, getting them to increase. So you're just going to want to make sure that you continue to target and say, hey, thank you so much for your continued gift. Can you increase this year? So that's the biggest thing. Again, and NCPR was slow to adopt monthly donations, but we always heard from our annual donations saying, I'm a sustainer because I've been giving for years. So we always kept our annuals as sustaining members, only if they request it. So it's not everybody, but if they say they want to be a sustainer annually, we've always allowed it. So, and it's been working out great. So.
Lizette, have you found that any particular like donor level it resonates with more than others?
Not really. I mean, for a long time, obviously, the $120 donation was always really, one of the biggest segments for us. But it's really expanded, especially since the rescission. We saw a lot of those donations go up. So,
Nancy, go ahead. Oh, you're muted.
I was going to say, it's lovely to see you, Lizette. I think last time I saw you, it was in warmer, sunnier weather. Would we be able to exchange that? I would love to see the series that you've had. I know with Brooke and Memphis, that's what I was using. And when I would run reports, I'd be like, oh dear God, what is this gift? Like in the renewals, like what happened there? Because the way it was documented, it looked like somebody had pledged this amount of money that sat there rotting for 12 months. It came out very odd looking in my reports. And I thought, this does not bode well because, I didn't have those other mechanisms in place to catch those ahead of time, to do those kind of communications. Would you be willing to share the system that you have currently with me?
absolutely. We use Allegiance. I don't know how many people are on with Allegiance.
Same.
So it's pretty straightforward as long as, on the donation form, you have the recurring donation thing. You have to make sure that obviously translates and those check marks are in there or it's a waste because it won't capture it. But yeah, I'm happy to absolutely connect. I'll put my email on the chat here. Anybody who wants information is welcome to reach out.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I guess this is about the wave of new members and retention. My goal is to have a member, not a member of it, but an event once a month. And so that is kind of a change for us just because we are kind of small. So like this month, our buck slip that went out at year end, I created these events so that I could have them on the buck slip. But it was like, we have a volcano music project happening on Sunday. And we couldn't do a member discount for that because of the cost. It was just like our margin. I think we're going to net $100 from the event. But in March or the end of February, we're having a film screening and members get a discount if they use a code. It's like a $3 discount. And then like we did an insect walk. So one of our reporters moonlights as like an insect blogger for our local arboretum, and she created this deck of cards based on photography she did. And so one of our premiums was you get a deck of cards and then you can join for an insect walk at the place. And
Oh.
so I want to do, it was really popular. I want to do that again and maybe do like a new member insect walk or pair up with the local bird alliance to do a bird walk. I'm trying to figure out the problem though, because this is kind of a new thing for us. I don't want to exclude members who've been giving a long time to, welcome these new people. But I think just having the event and showing the opportunity is a good retention tool for new members as well. Like, I don't think I have to segment out new versus long time, but the goal is at least once a month, there's something. Yeah.
This would involve your newsroom, but one of our podcasts did this really cool audio tour of like around our Durham studios. They found like 5 historically significant places and did a story about it. And it was so cool because like one of them was the Durham Bulls stadium and the history there and everything. And but they were promoting it, I think, on their podcast. I can't even remember how they were promoting it, and they weren't getting very many people coming to it. And I was like, can we just invite all of our leadership circle members? And so we did that a couple Saturdays. We had about 100 people sign up both times and just walked. You bring your AirPods and you walk and listen to the story. So it was so great because, and we had some of the new people come, but it was so great because it connects, like a lot of them hadn't even heard of the podcast, so it connects your content, what you're doing, to also an engagement event. And there was a local Louisiana restaurant, so we call it the show is called The Broadside. So we had beignets and broadside. So they all came and they got a beignet and coffee, and then we went on the walk together. But I loved it, and I was like, we should have done that every Saturday. We should have just invited all of our donors to do the walk with us and do it, walk through it together. So they're going to try to do more stuff like that. But it reminded me of that when you said the bird tour. It's really cool.
We
I'm
have
also wondering about connecting with, like we had so many increases via text. I mean, it was in the thousands. And I'm wondering about connecting back with them through the platform they increased on. Like some, increased in email, some increased in pledge, but then we had a really strong image that said like Washington made its choice. Now you can too. And it was an image of the White House. It was just phenomenal. We're not even doing telemarketing to sustainers now to ask them to increase. We're doing everything via text. So I'm wondering about trying to connect with them that way and what would be powerful. So it was just a side thought, but
I'm curious how many of the stations that are here are doing texting. We've tried to launch it and relaunch it multiple times, but have run into issues with privacy policies and stuff. And our tech team is just not comfortable implementing it. So I'm wondering how many of you all do texting, and did you run into the privacy policy issue, and did you find any ways to work through it?
We do it WISO. I started us like almost 3 years ago, and I knew because one of the ways we do it is one of the tools we use is MailChimp. So we just purchase extra texting credits. And one of their things is you have to get explicit opt-in. So even before I knew it was going to be feasible, I started getting people's permission for like, in the future, would you consent to getting text from us once a month? And so we added that as an opt-in on all our donation forms. So that's the main way we get people's permission.
We have a texting club that people have to opt into. So we encourage people to do that. It's mostly right now just a community engagement text. So basically, our reporters plan to do a series, or our community engagement reporter plans to do a series. One of the most popular ones actually was featuring murals tell us where the murals in your towns are so that we can come and, look at them and stuff like that. We are looking to expand it to see about the possibility of also using it or something similar to start communicating directly with our donors.
I just saw Brooks comment in the chat that says, since we're talking about dream retention goals, I want to do some geofencing digital marketing on Meta and Google, as well as targeted marketing using people's emails. I was at PMDMC last year. There was a presentation on digital ads, and I can remember afterwards I had a conversation with one of the presenters who was from Tanager Digital. And I was asking him, I said, is anyone using digital marketing, specifically Meta and Google, to reinforce like renewal messaging and specific messaging based on like, if you're logged into Meta or Google and we have your email, then we know who you are. And so maybe during a drive, rather than the generic ask, they might get like increase your sustaining gift or renew, or you haven't given and you're lapsed, come back, whatever it is. And he was like, no, I don't know of anyone doing that, but people should. And that's like my dream for our digital marketing here at Vermont Public. We have a contractor that we use for that. And I'm hopeful in the next year or so, I was talking to our marketing person about it. And hopefully in the next year or so, we'll be able to start tinkering and make it happen. But that's where we're at now, is doing research on the privacy stuff. So if I learn anything, Brooke, I'll let you know.
Thank you. We have a contractor as well. It's me. And that webinar I attended yesterday, I might send it out to y'all because it really was very helpful, and I can send my notes too. But they talked a lot about this. And so like I'm like, oh, we should geofence the local YMCA and be, or where events where there's a speaker talking about something cool, and be like, hey, you like cool stuff, the farmers market 100%. Hey, like you like local, we're local, read our newsletter, not even necessarily asks for fundraising, but like a programming. I mentioned it to our GM yesterday. He was like, yeah, okay. But it's the targeted using people's emails on Meta, like, because you have to like offload the emails into the system. That's where I'm like, oh, that might be a little weird.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, it would be, that's what they're researching. Like our consulting firm is researching for us right now is privacy laws and our privacy policy, and making sure that, and like learning how Meta will / maybe won't use I don't know. That's the part similarly that I'm nervous about. Because we're really, we keep our membership email list very close. We don't share it anywhere. We don't give it to anyone ever. And the last thing we want to do is compromise the trust of our audience. So, okay, it is 12:59. Thank you all so much for your time today, your expertise, your brains. If you ever have questions about things like this, feel free to post them on the Slack in PRADO. That's what it's there for, is to get advice from your colleagues from around the country. And if you need anything, make sure to reach out. I will share the recording, hopefully tomorrow. And if not, it will definitely be on Monday. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Keep on keeping on.